If ever your life could be a true crime podcast episode, then this podcast is for you. We're about to embark on a roller coaster of emotions, insights, survival, and stories about escape. So buckle up and let the journey begin.
I was going to call it Murray the frog.
Murray.
I don't know why.
Okay.
I don't know where that came from.
We can call it Murray the frog.
The frog in her throat is officially named Murray. Welcome into the escape pod, where we are escaping, I don't know,
Still
frogs in the throat.
Again.
And
cold crickets.
It's cold in our little suite here.
Yeah. Well, that's Julie.
And that's Charity. And you're in the escape pod with us. Welcome back in. We have a two-parter. We're wrapping up this week, but until we get to that topic, what are you escaping from this time?
I have developed a really bad shopping habit. And I mean, I've always hated shopping.
I thought there's no way you've hated shopping.
Yeah. I've
Okay.
It doesn't mean I don't have a lot of shoes and coats and stuff, but
You don't actually like going out and purchasing.
I don't.
them. Okay.
No, I have to really, really be in the mood, and that's on very rare occasion. But I think because I've lost so much weight in the last year, like things just didn't fit. So then I kind of had to do it out of necessity, and then it kind of became like this dopamine hit thing. And so I remember telling my husband last week, listen, I only have one more package coming. And it's one thing. And then over the weekend, click, click, clickety, click, shop, shop, shop. And so I have a lot of stuff coming.
And he's like, what was the one more thing, Charity? How many one more things are there? It's all right.
3, 6, 7, 8.
Oh my
eight
gosh.
one more things.
You're crazy.
Not including, I'm out of control. No. Well, then, we're going to that concert.
Uh-huh.
And I had the best 80s boots, like rock boots.
Okay.
But one of my blackout drunk episodes puked down the boots, so the boots had to go.
Okay.
And so I'm like, I've got to be able to find something that looks like those boots. They were so sweet. No, I couldn't find those, but I did find 2 more, and I couldn't decide between the 2. So I have them both coming. And then I had to find the right boot chains, and then I had to find the right velvet jacket and all this stuff. And I'm just like, I'm just seriously out of control. This is what's happening when now I don't have to pay my son's rent. Like, I'm just shopping. So, yeah. I'm escaping my shopping habit. I think I'm almost done, though. I think I'm done.
Okay.
My credit card bill is going to suck this month.
Right. Mine has largely been overtaken. See, now your kids are out of the needing you to pay for things phase. Mine are in the heart of it.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep.
Some days I'm just like, oh, there's that fee for that activity. There it is. Oh, look, there's the additional fee because we participated in a competition.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, look. No, it's okay.
Kids are expensive.
I think, though, if we couldn't afford it, it would be different. At this point, we can. And also, it's so good for them that that makes a difference. Like, if it were not something...
It makes a huge difference. Yeah. I remember being in 5th or 6th grade, and I really wanted to get into basketball. And so I talked to my parents, like, hey, could we do this? And it was so cheap.
Yeah.
But they were so cheap.
Yeah.
And, if they would have paid for me to be in basketball, that would have been less drugs and less pop and less stupid stuff that they could have bought. So they said no. And I just think about all those things I tried to do to stay away from the drugs and the boys and the danger and all the stuff I ended up doing. Like I tried to be a cheerleader. I tried to get in with good people because I knew where I was headed.
Yeah.
And I just didn't have that support at home. So
a year or two ago, a friend was telling me about one of her daughter's friends whose family would threaten basically to take away her music. She was in band or orchestra, whatever it was. And if there were challenges, it was kind of like, well.
That's your punishment, yeah.
Yes. I'm like, I am not a perfect parent, but holy cow.
Yeah. Well, they had nothing they could take away from me. I mean, they can't take away my good grades.
Right.
That would have been counterproductive. But they did ground me a lot. I was grounded a lot. But that didn't stop me from sneaking out and doing whatever I was going to do anyway. It's like,
yeah. They needed to glue the window.
They needed to remove the window, but they did not.
Yeah.
So, no, my window was a good time.
So last week we had a truly horrifying story of
Tragic,
true crime.
yes.
About a young man who hated women and proved it in a very tragic way.
Mm-hmm.
So in researching for that, you found almost as terrifying of other stories.
Yes.
Because the mindset was not limited to him.
Nope. I mean, well, I told you about that Canada talk show that people called into and said, they understood why this guy did that. What you're going to hear today very much mirrors that sentiment.
Okay.
And I think what's the most disturbing about it is, I don't know if it's just we're all on information overload. So it's out there, but we can't see it or hear it because
most of us also
bad
aren't
stuff all the time.
Seeking it though too,
something like what you're going to hear. This is the stuff that typically is going to create a massive shockwave. And again, I just have that driving question. Is it because of social media where, something happens in our local area, we're all going to be impacted, but because social media blows up all kinds of other things, there's there's competition for space and attention and bandwidth, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, but this disturbed me so deeply. And again, I was just curious. Well, this happened in 1989. I can relate to that because I was in engineering school myself at the same time. Mm-hmm. But the things I'm talking about now are very, very recent.
Yeah.
And I've heard nothing about it.
Okay.
So,
well, people will hear about it now.
Did you tell me what you're escaping this week and I just blacked out?
Oh, I don't think I did.
Okay.
I do have one. I think I'm escaping a teenager who has generally not believed me when I've said studying can help. Just throwing that out there. So
you don't know
he's
anything,
not
Mom.
the best test taker.
Oh.
And it was kind of not a slap in the face, but a real kind of come to Jesus moment when his teacher at conferences in one of his classes said, we do she does a fun way of quizzing the students before the actual test. So it's a Kahoot game, which we've done here.
We love Kahoot.
Yeah, we love Kahoot. And there's other ones.
Please sponsor us.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
And if they don't, just bleep it out. Bleep.
Yeah,
Okay.
So she's like, well, he won our Kahoot game. And I had to say to her, but he didn't. The test didn't show that. And she looked back and she's like, you're right. So I'm like, oh my gosh, he's just a kid who isn't a great test taker, which happens. My mom will always say, oh, I always feel for those kids because I was that kid. I was that teenager. I knew what I was doing, but I'd sit down for the test and
blackout.
Kind of blank.
Yeah.
And so I have a heart for it because I know enough people I know to be very smart and they're just not great test takers. And even I've had those moments, math especially. I was not a great test taker in math. So anyway, but he decided on this one quiz or test that he had coming up. He studied for it and only missed one. And I was like,
wow,
look at that. There's a chance your mom knows what she's talking about. But he does kind of just think magically he'll remember things. Mm-hmm. And I understand, I appreciate the confidence, but historically, that has not always proven to work.
It's like any other.
You got to practice it. You got to practice. So anyway, it's a good escapism, I think, for us, for sure. All right.
Awesome.
Now on to the topic.
Okay, let's see how many. These are smaller stories.
Okay.
Because it's current stuff. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we'll talk about the movement. The movement.
A movement.
The InCel movement.
Okay.
I mean.
Remind people what InCel is. You just touched on it.
Involuntarily celibate.
Yeah. I feel like it should be a joke, but it's not.
It's
in this
not
case,
a joke.
it's not a joke.
It's not a joke. And when I show you some of these pictures, I mean, some of them are, semi-attractive or attractive young men. Some are not, but some are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just, get it together. I'm sorry, whatever it is, everybody has a type out there. Everybody has somebody out there for them.
Yeah.
There's too many people on the planet for that not to be true. Just, you gotta look sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. So this first one is, let me see if I can remember how to say his name. Alec Manassian. You heard that name?
Nope.
Okay. Toronto in 2018, April. This man plowed a rental van, Mr. Mercedes style. Have you read Mr. Mercedes?
Mm-mm.
Stephen King?
Mm-mm.
That's what the antagonist does. Yeah.
You know me.
Yeah.
Do you think I'm reading Stephen King on purpose?
He's a great writer.
I 100% agree. That's the problem. I want to be able to sleep at night and not have bad dreams.
No, Mr. Mercedes, there's an antagonist who does exactly that.
Okay.
And it's just for the thrill. And he slaughters a bunch of people waiting in a line at the city center to, times are tough and they're in line early for a job fair.
Oh.
Kills all kinds of people. So, yeah, this man does that into a gathering of pedestrians. He kills 10 people. And after being apprehended within about a half an hour of this attack, and although he admitted to his attack, the attorneys argued that he could not be held responsible due to being on the autism spectrum disorder.
Okay.
Okay. The presiding judge dismissed this as a valid argument, thankfully.
Okay.
He was charged with 10 counts of murder, 16 counts of attempted murder. Alec told investigators that he was inspired by the InCel Movement that we talked about in part 1, comprised of mostly online young men who blame their lack of sexual opportunities on women. He followed up with, quote, "I feel like I accomplished my mission," end quote. The victims ranged from 22 to 94 years old. Moments before he began his deadly assault on this unsuspecting group of innocent pedestrians, he posted a cryptic message to Facebook, quote, "The InCel rebellion has already begun. We will overthrow all the Chads and Stacys. All hail the supreme gentleman, Elliot Rodger," end quote. I'll get to it.
Okay.
I see puzzles on your face. Of the Toronto suspect, one post says, quote, "I hope this guy wrote a manifesto because he could be our next new saint."
Ew. Ew.
Another proclaims, quote, "I will have one celebratory beer for every victim that turns out to be a young woman between 18 and 35, end quote.
You're an idiot.
Worse than an idiot. Worse than an idiot. It's all spelled correctly. Like, there's no typos. I'm just saying, like, these are worse. So Chads and Stacys, that reference, I learned way too much about this movement. Chad is that typical, these are the guys that are getting all the girls.
Oh.
The chiseled jaw, good looking, successful, whatever, the thing that they believe they're not and why they can't get women. And Stacey's would be all the girls they can't get. And so they've got these memes out there, these, stereotyping men and women because of their ineptness of getting a date or, yeah. And I'm like, well, hey, there is an industry called sex work. You can go pay somebody, not that I'm advocating that, but there's always some kind of way.
Right.
But no,
I
let's
see where you're
kill
coming
people.
from. Yeah.
Obviously. So this is Alec Manassian from his LinkedIn page. He was a professional. He's not a bad looking dude.
No.
But yeah. Okay. So this brings us to Elliot Rodger, which was in that quote.
Mm-hmm.
So Elliot came first. He was in 2014. And so he was the first kind of incel hero.
Oh.
Have you heard that name? California?
Say it again.
Elliot Rodger?
Nope.
Okay. So this kid was the son of a Hollywood filmmaker. He grew up in a life of privilege and affluence, and he killed 6 people in a stabbing and shooting spree in Isla Vista. Before he turned the gun on himself, the 22-year-old, 22, posted a, quote, retribution video to YouTube and emailed a 141-page autobiographical document to almost 24 people he knew. The online incels gravitated toward this manifesto. And it touched on his upbringing, his mental health, his hatred of women, all fueled by an intense frustration over being a virgin. In this document, Roger proclaimed, quote, "I am the closest thing there is to a living God," end quote. Just wait till you see his scrawny little guy, too. Hold on.
It's funny, but it's not.
Well, here, look at him. I mean, he's a cute kid, but little, just kind of little.
Yeah, but I mean,
he would have grown into it eventually, maybe.
Right.
Okay, so closest thing to a living God, and on the video he posted to YouTube, Roger sat in a BMW his family had given him and complained about being a virgin at 22, saying he had never even kissed a girl. In the document, he describes himself as the, quote, "ideal, magnificent gentleman," end quote, and could not comprehend why women would not want to have sex with him. He planned his murderous rampage as a, quote, "day of retribution," and he said he had, quote, "no choice but to exact revenge on the society," end quote, "that had denied him sex and love." Roger specified that he planned to target the Alpha Phi sorority, whose members he had deemed the hottest at his college. Quote, "the kind of girls I've always desired but was never able to have," end quote. He shot and killed Catherine Cooper, 22, and Veronica Weiss, 19, members of another sorority outside the Alpha Phi house. He also stabbed to death 3 young men, a 20-year-old, 2 20-year-olds, and a 19-year-old. He injured 14 when he traveled around firing at random in his car, and finally shot another young man who was 20 years old. In the final section of the manifesto, Roger declared, "I am the true victim in all this. I am the good guy." And as if that weren't sick enough, he has been idolized by members of this InCel online movement, spurring fan posts and videos in memory of Elliot, even selling merch with his face on it.
Horrifying.
Yeah.
Horrifying.
So going back to what's his butt's quote, "all hail the supreme gentleman, Elliot Roger." That's what he's referencing is this manifesto.
Yeah.
And I mean, what did I say? Alec was how old? Alec was, did I say? Maybe I didn't say. I mean, he looks to be about 27 or so.
Yeah.
Elliot was 22. Okay, next one. Jake Davison, 2023, Plymouth, England.
Okay.
Shot his mother after they had gotten into a fight, and then he went on a 12-minute murder spree, killing a total of 5 people. Investigation into his crimes showed he'd been active on social media platforms where the incel community would commiserate and propagate hatred towards women. Here are some of the posts from these platforms. Quote, "obviously I don't have much hope of attracting a woman in the first place," end quote. Another one. "I've had a couple of negative experiences in relationships, and so that has made me feel like, it's hard to move on from my past and start a new relationship. I've had women who have done some pretty bad things to me." These rejected men seem to participate in social media groups out of loneliness, like that's how it starts. And then they're vindicated in these echo chambers filled with young men who've had these same experiences, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think of people who I've seen posts where I go, putting that out there does not actually help you.
No.
But that's what it is, right? They are at some point, maybe not with that particular post, but in sharing this way, sometimes they're going to be sucked in or find it one way or another.
They want to be like, hey, there's a reason this is happening. It's not because I'm socially awkward or I treat women poorly or I think they like to be punched in the face or condescended to or whatever. Like they're just not getting it.
I had a guy who I'd gone to school with, but and he contacted me after I was working. Okay. And so I was easy to find. I was on TV.
Right.
So it wasn't like this big shocker,
Yeah.
And he wanted to go out to lunch, and I did go with him. Perfectly nice guy. Fine. But the weirdest thing for me was that he was not, we talked more at that lunch than we had all of like middle school and high school. We weren't not friends, but we also weren't friends. And so, it was fine. And I still to this day don't really know what his intention was in asking me out to lunch. I mean, I think I know, but it was just so strange because I thought, you didn't talk then and you're not really talking now. Like, it was not going to be a fit.
Mm-hmm.
And it just was so obvious to me. And I also think it's a little bit not funny. I'm going to say funny. That's not the right word. But to think that only men in their early 20s, struggle to find somebody to go out with. Oh my gosh.
Women struggle too.
Women struggle. I never had a boyfriend in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I was rejected plenty of times in my teenage years and early 20s, really until I met sometimes I'm like, really until I met my husband. And it is hard and it sucks. That's kind of life in your teens and 20s. This is not an isolated experience. Right. Thank you. That's where I'm trying to go. But I'm going like, you're thinking because you don't have a serious girlfriend at 22. Good gravy. It's kind of what I say about like bullies in middle school. It sucks. Like, even if middle school isn't that bad, it sucks. Yeah. Like, it is a hard time of life. We know from child development studies, so much is going on in your body, in your brains, and it's hard. Even when it's not as hard, it's hard. And I always say to people, like, you just got to get through it.
Yeah. Because
it won't always be like this. It really won't. And I kind of want to shake these men and be like, seriously, like,
get over yourself.
Get over yourself and realize, life can be completely different a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now.
What about the people in their spheres? Like,
exactly.
Get them some help.
Yeah.
Clearly, they need to talk to somebody. And it's not these echo chambers filled with people who are
It becomes
being influenced by one another.
It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because you're looking to perpetuate the dysfunction instead of changing something about yourself in a healthy way or whatever.
Being patient, investing your sexual frustration into something else, like learn a language, learn something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
well,
go figure out how to talk with a British accent. Or maybe this guy might already have one. Do something that's going to make you more exotic to women or something. Interesting. I don't know. Learn something cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. So anyway, these echo chambers started out with just commiseration.
Sure.
And then it goes from expressing that frustration to plotting and justifying revenge. And so the bar of what is acceptable keeps increasing. And so now they're starting to convince each other that the sex game is tied to the genetic lottery. And that's kind of where the Chads come in.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I saw somebody reference a Chad once, and I was like, what are they talking about? That's part
it's rigged from birth. So there's no hope in succeeding.
Yeah.
You're never going to get the woman. Further, these groups seem to frown upon self-help. So for a bunch of men already being rejected, they risk further rejection if they try to better themselves or actually do end up successful with a woman. And they'll just turn on them like piranha.
Ugh.
So overweight, shy, socially awkward, insecure men who've had their hearts broken, it's just a cesspool of the worst of humanity. And one thread where an incel spoke of being suicidal, he received a response that read, "Don't be selfish. Go to an elementary school and kill some children before you commit suicide, please."
So I realize a law enforcement agency of some kind would have to see that to be able to do something about it. But how is that not a threat?
Right. I'll get to one where they did do it.
Okay.
Okay, but at this one, to my knowledge, they didn't. This is him. This is Jake Davison.
Okay.
So kind of fluffy and not, go to the gym. Transform yourself. I mean, I love those movies where the dork ends up like, what did I just watch? Stephen King's It, Chapter 2, the second chapter.
Again, not something I'm going to watch.
It was actually really funny. But one of the little geeky kids grows up to be like this hot dude. And
yeah, it happens.
And he had a crush, like he was fat and, geeky, and then grows up and he always had a crush on the one girl in the group.
Sure.
And then she sees him after all these years and it's just like, holy shit.
Yep.
And then they have a moment and it's so sweet. Okay. All right, Trey Jenko, this is the next one, 2021, Ohio. He described himself as an incel. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, he was arrested before anything could happen. So he
Good.
revealed a plot to kill women at a university kind of like Marc Lepine did. He was sentenced to over 6 years in prison, where I'm sure somebody's going to love him. And he deserves every ounce of that love. He openly wrote that he wanted to kill women out of hatred, jealousy, and revenge. An investigation discovered that he'd bought a bulletproof vest and a skull mask, a rifle, and handgun magazines in preparation for a Lepine-style massacre. Here's this loser who is now getting a whole lot of love in prison.
Scumbag.
Yeah. Okay. Brandon Clark, 2019, July. He murdered 17-year-old Bianca Devins in Utica, New York. He unsuccessfully attempted suicide afterward and landed a 25 to life prison sentence. So the ones that are getting caught, I mean, they are like getting taken seriously. So the backstory here, Bianca, beautiful young girl. She had struggled with mental illnesses such as borderline personality disorder, PTSD, anxiety, and depression. She often felt, that's a bad combination. Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Poor girl. She often felt isolated and sought companionship in online communities to get herself through kind of the rough patches. So kind of the same reason that the InCels are gravitating towards those platforms, to have someone to commiserate with. She's doing it to try to help pull herself out of these, spirals. And whereas Brandon had a different kind of traumatic upbringing, for instance, he'd once seen his father holding his mother at knife point for several hours.
Oh.
That's going to mess with a kid.
Yeah. Yep.
These two are believed to have met on Instagram after he started following her. He was totally into her, but she just considered him a friend, according to friends and family. Brandon definitely wanted more. And one of Bianca's friends claimed that he was preying upon her mental health challenges and possibly even exploiting her sexually in exchange for supplying her with drugs to keep her spending time with him. And so on July 13th, Bianca, Brandon, and a mutual friend named Alex go to a concert together. And afterward, Brandon learns that Bianca and Alex had shared a kiss, and they begin fighting about it. He spirals. He begins assaulting her. He slices her neck with the knife he'd already had in his car, which seems kind of premeditated. She died shortly after, and when authorities discovered her body left in his car, by the way, or I don't know if it was his car or her car, probably his, she was nearly decapitated. And after he killed her, Brandon posted, here's where it gets really bad.
Oh, now it's getting bad?
This is really bad. After he killed her, Brandon posted photos of her body to a Discord server. Can you imagine being her parents?
No.
Oh my God.
I don't need to be her parents.
Accompanied by the caption, quote, "Sorry, fuckers, you're going to have to find someone else to orbit," end quote. He also created a video of the murder. And Discord users notified the police, fortunately, and even Brandon called 911 himself. He says to dispatch, "My name is Brandon. The victim is Bianca Michelle Devins. I'm not going to stay on the phone for long because I still need to do the suicide part of the murder-suicide." When the police arrived, he stabbed himself in the neck and posted more online photos. Investigators believed it was premeditated due to having the knife in the car, videoing the murder, and his search history that included how to kill someone and find the carotid artery. And if this weren't horrific enough for the family, online communities started sharing those photos widely.
What is wrong with people?
All the freaking things.
All the things.
And InCel communities praised Brandon with hashtag campaigns I will not repeat here. I mean, it was just beyond.
It's like
just
a
beyond
new level of disturbed.
It's the worst. There were even paywalls set up to capitalize on access to the murder photos. This is how out of control this thing is getting. Instagram and Facebook deleted Brandon's account to stop the spread. Facebook banned images linked to the murder. The Discord server that Clark utilized was shut down, but Instagram users who posted the photos were not found to be in violation of the policies, much to the criticism of the rest of the world.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Nearly 2 years after this tragedy, users would send photos to family members, compounding their trauma. I mean, this still happens. We'll still have once in a while someone say, they need to finish the job on my husband or something. I mean, Brandon, however, did not die after stabbing himself in the neck. He was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. And while awaiting trial, he bragged to a friend about how it felt to kill someone. It admitted he could not handle the thought of not having Bianca in his life, or like if she left on her terms. So that's why he did it. He was sentenced to 25 to life. Here's this creep and beautiful Bianca. She was so pretty, though.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go. We're done with the things. There's more. These are just some of the, just to give you a taste of what's going on in this world here. So the Center for Countering Digital Hate analyzed, did you know that was such a thing? It's kind of cool, though.
Is it relatively new?
I don't know when it was founded, but I'm glad they exist.
Yeah.
So they analyzed more than 1 million posts on social media, and they found a significant and concerning spike in conversations about mass murder and raping prepubescent girls.
Ugh.
Now, this incel, I mean, it's turning into just something so... It started out as a group where people could commiserate about being virgins or not being able to get women or whatever. And it's turned into something completely not that. So this incel ideology and the first incel forum was actually founded by a woman in the mid-90s. And it has largely become almost exclusively male now and has been linked to dozens of murders and assaults against women in the past 10 years. In March of 23, the U.S. Secret Service's National Threat Assessment Center released a report warning that anti-women violence was a growing terrorism threat.
Interesting.
And according to the CCDH analysis, members of the forum post about rape every 29 minutes, and more than 89% of posters support rape and say that it's acceptable. This analysis also found that posters on the forum are seeking to normalize child rape. More than a quarter of members on the forum have posted pedophilia keywords, the analysis found, and more than half of the members of the forum support pedophilia. Analysis of their discourse shows that this core group poses a clear and present danger to women, other young men, and reveals an emerging threat to our children, the report says. It also said its analysis had found a rising interest in mass murder on the site. Posts mentioning incel mass murders increased 59% between 2021 and 22. There's a growing concern that these unchecked communities have the potential to radicalize even further. That's the word I was looking for earlier, and cause an immeasurable amount of harm. The report also found that membership is limited to only self-declared heterosexual men. Women and members of the LGBTQ plus community are prohibited from this posting, and incel videos on YouTube have been viewed a total of 24.2 million times at the time of this report.
Bonkers.
This is the rabbit hole I was going down,
Yeah.
You can't, this can't be happening. I mean, I learned all sorts of things. Like another YouTube channel that's popular with this group is full of covertly recorded images of women called slut hate creeps.
Okay.
They're the sluts.
Right.
Like, really? Okay.
So it isn't lost on me. I talked about self-fulfilling prophecies, but it's like part of the draw is to social media because you find a community there. It's also being on social media all the time means you're not having face-to-face contact
With a real
people,
human being, yeah.
which is part of what you struggle with. And so instead of looking...
Yeah, it's not cathartic. It's counterproductive.
Yep.
You're creating that exactly more of that which you are trying to change. Well,
Yeah.
not trying to change, but that's causing the problems that are weighing so prevalently on your mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I
unfortunately,
need to escape from this topic.
this
I'm
is
not
going to
gonna
be
lie
a
you.
PSI. We're almost done, I promise. Okay. Teenage boys are among the forum's most active and extreme users,
Sure.
according to this report. In one instance, a boy who said he was 17 was recorded as being on the forum for an average of 10 hours per day during the period of the report, posting an average of 40 times per day. Another who claimed to be 15 spent an average of 5 hours per day on the site, posting repeatedly about his desire to commit a mass shooting. These forums enable their participation by encouraging users to hide the site from prying parents or teachers by using a feature that disguises it as a banana marketing website. So I'm going to tell you, parents, educate yourself on what your kids are doing on the internet. When my son was going through puberty and I knew, porn is so accessible and we do not tolerate that in my house, I put an app called Custodio on all of his devices. And so if I needed to look, I could see anything in his search history, any text message, every call he made, like everything. And he knew it was there and we'd had a long talk about it. It's like, don't make me have to look. And then when he went off to college, I said, okay, you're on your own.
Yeah. You're an adult.
Yeah.
I have
You're on your
zero
own. I
control.
hopefully got you through the hard spell of being a teenage boy. And, now you need to do this on your own. But And that was just porn I was worried about.
Right.
Not what we're talking about here, which is, I mean, normalizing what they're talking about with children. And this is just not okay. This is not the outlet. And that's what I don't understand. It's like, if now in these forums, from what I'm reading, if you have any kind of normal thought, or like maybe this isn't okay, or I really still want a girlfriend.
Yeah,
you are converged upon like you're blasphemous. How dare you say those things? And so that bar, in order for them to fit and feel accepted, I'm sure some of them are going along to get along, and then pretty soon they're indoctrinated, and it's not good. There's nothing good coming out of this. At first I would have thought, okay, just a group where people can commiserate, and at least they're not alone. It's not just you going through this. And the fact that it was started by a woman, it started out with probably good intentions, maybe. But
to say
what it's turned into, like I said, some of this is really watered down. I'm going to spare our listeners with some of the more horrific things. And I know it was pretty brutal, but
scary.
It
is scary, but it is.
I mean, there's a lot of apps like this, but parents, please, like, there is so much hate and danger on the internet accessible to your precious children. And, and during those formative times, we talked about that. The brain, this stuff gets planted in, it's going to be a factor their whole lives. I mean, my God, with as messed up as I was, I'm still so grateful that the internet did not exist.
Right.
And social media did not exist, because I think I don't know if I ever would have recovered. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just don't know.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of terrifying. Yeah.
It's incredibly terrifying.
But if you don't know, if you have zero awareness of it, you also can't do anything about it.
Right.
So
that's why I wanted to do it.
Yep, here we are. It's not a topic you want to do.
No, I didn't go down these rabbit holes because I was like, ooh, what's this?
Yeah.
This looks like fun. This was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, but it's important.
Do we not know that this is a rising threat? I mean, what did I say? Department of Secret Service or whatever. Like, okay, this is a report. It's released. It's out there. Why is this stuff not being talked about?
Yeah.
Because I guarantee, if it's mostly young teenagers on these sites, parents don't know that, and no way they would condone it.
Right.
No way they would condone it. I mean, you might have the one dad, like Mark Lepine's dad, that would have condoned something like this.
He's
hating
part
on
of
women.
the problem.
He's part of the problem, but that cannot be the majority. I refuse to believe that is the majority of parents.
Me too.
So
me too.
We need to do something about it. Not we, Charity and Julie, but we collectively
as a society.
And we can't do anything about it or even recognize signs and symptoms if we're not aware of it. So that's why we went through this train wreck of a rabbit hole. And thank you guys for listening.
Yeah. Let's take just a quick break.
Oh, yeah. We have some palate cleansers today.
We do.
Okay.
And you'll like it.
Awesome.
All right. We'll be right back. Hello, escape artists out there. Quick public service announcement. You hear us talk on the Escape Pod about the OneHeart campus. To learn more about this place for hope and healing where lives are changed for the better, listen to the prologue episode at escapepod.live or wherever you get your podcasts, or visit oneheartrc.org. Welcome back into the Escape Pod. We just wrapped up a just horrendous topic. So we're flipping the lid on that bad boy. And we're going to do a OneHeart woohoo.
OneHeart woohoos. Yes, we kind of forgot about that. I think
I know we've done a few without doing it.
Our cheerful spirit got dampened for a while there.
But no,
not that good things weren't happening, just that.
Oh my gosh, so many good things.
So many good things, yeah.
So for those who aren't aware what OneHeart is, go to our prologue episode and listen to all the amazing things we're working on. But here's a good woohoo, and it actually speaks to people who we talked about parents and wanting to be good parents, right? So this one just comes from late October. 3 OneHeart guests had their CPS, Child Protection Service cases, closed in the same day. In one case, the guest was granted full legal and physical custody of her 3 children. This guest has achieved several goals to get to this point. Since enrollment, she has had a goal of becoming the best mother that she could be for her children to return to. Now, come on. That's a way to end
awesome.
a way to end a podcast, right?
Yeah.
I'll just read one other. There are a few listed here, but I'm going to just read one more. That one of our guests here at OneHeart was recently awarded a $4,000 scholarship from a local foundation, one of our friends, John T. Vikarovich Foundation, we love them, to pursue a degree in human services.
Awesome. Maybe they'll come work for us.
Help more people.
We actually have a graduate as of a couple years ago that came back to work for us.
Yeah.
So we're starting to see that now, which is super cool.
It is very cool. So thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate you. If you like what you heard, please share it with others so that they can enjoy it too. We are a third-person show. Third-person? How did I say that? Third-person show?
I mean, hey, you can make up words. That's fine.
Or three-person. Writing, researching, producing, promoting it in our spare time to hopefully one day be able to provide operational support so we can create more of these OneHeart woohoos for you to hear. For the nonprofit we work for, our mission here is empowering people to overcome crisis and achieve self-sustainability.
Right. So I don't know how many podcasts you listen to. I listen to a lot, and only one of them started out for a cause, so it's not very common.
Correct.
So we really are truly a podcast for a cause, so you can feel good about listening and spreading the word. Please rate and review wherever you listen to your podcast. It really helps small teams like ours gain more exposure, and more listeners equals more ad revenue to help support the work we do. You can check out our website at escapepod.live. Carebeth did a great job on that. You can link out to our socials from there. She's posting stuff all the time. I'm not, but you can still reach me through there. She'll tell me if you have a message. Or I'm a little more old school. You can reach out to me or Julie through just because at escapepod.live, or share your story of escape. If you have a story of escaping an incel, or you have an incel in your life that you want to share with us, you can send that to us at escapeartist@escapepod.live.
We are closing the hatch on this episode of the Escape Pod. Remember, trauma may be inevitable, but how you grapple with it is optional. So stay resilient.
And do your best not to vomit. Keep laughing, everybody.
Bye, everybody.